The concept of flow, the state in which people are so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. The experience itself is so enjoyable that people will do it, even at great cost, for the sheer sake of doing it. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, author of Flow Psychology. What is peak performance? Flow state, being in the zone, Zen focus, are all words used to describe the feeling of doing things in a special way that connects one to the task at hand. A connection so strong and so deep, it makes people feel as though the entire universe rearranges itself in service to them, achieving their goal. Serendipity, luck, opportunity, all act as forces that turn what others see as obstacles into what the peak performer sees as helpful aids. Helpful aids that fall into just the right place at just the right time. This sense of connection with an external power makes the peak performer use a more spiritual word to describe the experience. That word is transcendence. But unfortunately, this seems to be limited to a small circle of people, an inner circle that the rest of us have been locked out of. Luckily, anything that is locked can be opened. All that's needed is the key. Finding and using the keys we need to unlock this experience is what this video is all about. So how has not having these keys affected our view of being in a state of flow? What follows are 3 commonly held perspectives with regards to being in the zone. You just might relate to one of them. I know I definitely have. Mythical, elusive, ephemeral. There are many who have heard of peak performance, but yet never seek to attain it. They look at their reflections in the mirror, and all they see is underwhelming mediocrity. For them, peak performance might as well be mythical. But then there are those who do pursue flow state. They chase it, stay hopeful, and believe in themselves. But alas, to no avail. They might as well chase a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow, an end that remains ever elusive. The fate of a wild goose chase does not befall all, however. There are those who do experience Zen focus and get a taste of it. For them, being in the zone isn't something elusive. It's transient. They feel flow state slip through their fingertips, which makes it fleeting and ephemeral. If you are the kind of person who can relate to any of these 3, then this video was made for you. By the time you're done watching this, you will not only have the keys you need to get in the zone, but to also stay there. So, in order to acquire the keys we seek, we must first of all know what has stopped us from finding them. An idle mind is the serpent's workshop. When we are engaged in what we do, we are occupied, productive, anything but idle. But when, for some reason, our mind disengages or even refuses to focus on the task at hand, our minds become inactive. This leads to boredom. When there is no work in the workshop, it leaves the door wide open for distractions to slither in. They whisper tempting promises of fun things we could be doing instead. We get lulled into compliance and slip into the fruitless distraction that's meant to be forbidden while we work. We comply willingly, allowing the serpentine persuasion to take over, like venom in our veins. And before we know it, we become an accomplice to our own demise. You move from being trapped in a boring task to being trapped in escapism. But what happens to those who resist? What happens when one decides to force the snake to back off? Is there an antidote to the snake's venom? Forced focus. Working under pressure is akin to brute forcing the mind into a state of focused productivity. The irony here is that deadlines make people feel alive. The higher the stakes, the better when focus is gripped with the iron fist of anxiety. Fear is what repels distractions, not focus. The Faustian bargain made is this: enhanced productivity at the price of your peace of mind. The tyranny of the deadline gets you whipped into action. Each whiplash takes the form of one panic attack after another. The deadline that at one point made you feel alive has now turned you into the living dead. As sleep deprivation leaves you feeling exhausted. You try to push on, but you simply can't. You run out of steam, you crash, you burn out. Believe it or not, experiencing burnout is not the real tragedy. The real tragedy is the frustration you feel. You sadly blame yourself, not for giving up, but for having the desire to keep going, and yet not having the stamina to do so. So are these our only two options? Boredom leading to distraction, or burnout leading to frustration? No, of course not. There is a third option, and it's one that's just right. The Goldilocks Zone. Those who apply the forced focus approach are not entirely wrong. These people have discovered something that helps them get in the zone, but not in the best way possible. Their approach is like a diamond in the rough, unrefined and still in need of improvement. So what have they found that works? Well, what they have stumbled upon is the power of stress. Stress is a useful tool and necessary for performance. But if stress can get you in the zone, then why does it lead to burnout? On screen is a graph called the stress performance curve. The y-axis depicts how well you are performing, and the x-axis shows how much stress you are dealing with. On the curve itself, are 3 zones of performance. These zones show what happens at different stress levels. When stress is too low, you get bored and distracted. When it's too high, you burn out and get frustrated. The zone in the middle is where stress levels are optimal. Here, your performance reaches its peak. Optimal stress levels leading to peak performance. Does this mean we have everything we need? No, it does not. Although what we just discussed is key. It is just but one of the many keys we need. But how many keys are there? Where do we find them? And how will they help us? In order to ensure that being in the zone is never elusive or ephemeral, we must address the remaining barriers that restrict us from being in a state of flow. From stress to bliss. Imagine, if you will, you are working, doing something you should be doing, and doing it in a state of mind where all stress needs not to burn out, but to bliss. For many, peace of mind is only attained when there is either no work to be done or when they are indulged in a distraction. Earlier on I mentioned transcendence. The word suggests moving from a lower plane of some sort to a higher one. Many use the word to talk about the spirit or the soul, or maybe those two are both the same thing. I don't know. But what I do know is this: if being in a state of flow makes you transcend, it will be because you have evolved from relying on the power of stress to harnessing the power of bliss. A mind working in blissful peace is a mind in the zone, in Zen focus, in flow state, at peak performance. And that to me sounds like transcendence. But this is not a case where ignorance is bliss. Oh no. This is the kind of bliss that can only come from enlightenment. Prepare yourself. It is now time to shed light on the barriers that have been blocking your path. The Kingdom of Seven. In days of old, kings built high walls to protect their kingdoms. The walls kept many out, while the few within languished in peace. They flourished within the walled garden of bliss, enjoying the fruits of their labor. Those on the outside, however, were left to live in misery and desolation beyond the walls, fruitlessly living in stress and never knowing what it's like to bloom and prosper. The time has come for you to join the inner circle. No longer will those walls keep you out. Here are the keys to the kingdom. The 7 circles dispelled. Diamonds are considered to be one of the rarest and most valuable items in the world. Only a handful have access to these precious stones. They are one of the most coveted things that money can buy. But if the best things in life are free, then why is it that something as precious as peak performance is a rare experience that only a select few are privy to. Something as valuable as being in a state of flow is something we must all unlock. Unlock the power within is something we often hear, but unlocking something locked away not only requires a key, but also the knowledge of how to use it. You've been locked out of being in the zone for far too long. It is time to now break through the barriers holding you back. And this time, you are ready, equipped with the keys you need. There are 7 of them, divided into 3 categories. To begin, you need a task with a clearly defined goal. Without a target to aim for, you literally will not know what you're doing. Next, achieving your goal must require a skill that can be improved upon. Without this, you cannot grow, and your task will feel pointless. Here is a key we have already encountered: optimal stress levels. The challenge of the task at hand must meet your current level of skill in order to grow beyond your comfort zone. Too little, you get bored. Too much, you get frustrated. Having control over the task is paramount. You need autonomy. All input must come from you. Any unnecessary interference will disrupt your flow. Next is feedback. You need to know when to stop and assess your mistakes, when to slow down to learn something difficult, and when to fly through what comes to you naturally. And of course, your emotions. You must never ignore how you feel. Doing well should make you feel good about your progress. But be warned, for when you fail, you will be heartbroken. But don't let that stop you. Know that you will still have the heart to keep moving forward until you succeed. And when you do succeed, you will discover that victory tastes a lot sweeter after defeat. Everything that has a beginning has an end, and this includes your task. Without an end in sight, you will never see the light at the end of the tunnel. Having a clear endpoint is key to knowing exactly when you have accomplished your goal. rise of the human spirit. Why is it that when you are in a state of flow, you have a spiritual experience? I believe that it is because we are all made to do more than just grow old over time. For we were always meant to transcend ourselves from within. Growing feels spiritual to us as human beings, not because we are human beings having a spiritual experience, but rather it is because we are spiritual beings having a human experience. The hustle and bustle of our daily lives has kept us stuck in states of boredom and frustration, states of distraction and burnout. We forget that what we want as human beings is not the same as what we need as spiritual beings. When we only grow our human form, we echo for a lifetime. But when we grow our spiritual form, we echo for an eternity. Distracted by focus. Now that you have the ability to attain peak performance, it is imperative you use this power wisely. Never forget that although it may be important to focus on productivity, it is also vital that you not only maintain a healthy work-life balance, but also make time for the people who love you, and of course, for the people who you love. Stay in touch with family and catch up with friends. Never let what you are focused on distract you from the important things in life. It's easy to be so focused on making a living that you lose sight of what makes life worth living. I have a confession to make. On many an occasion, I too have succumbed to boredom and distraction, burnout and frustration. But this time, things were different. Being in the zone is what kept me in a state of flow while I made this video. I was only able to attain a state of peak performance because I focused on what is most important to me. And that, of course, is to entertain, motivate, and educate you. Time is precious, and it takes time to make these videos. But I do it because it's worth it, because you are worth it. I want you to know that you are precious, and you are valuable. So never stop yourself from shining bright like a diamond. Alright, it's time for one last thing, and it's crucial. So let's get this done. In life, there are many things that you will need to get done. Small things, big things, and of course, urgent things. Knowing how to juggle the multitude of tasks that come your way is necessary in order to be organized. An organized life leads to an organized mind, and an organized mind is a mind at peace. The mind has a natural way of organizing itself. Up next are the secrets to getting things done. I'll see you there. In the meantime, stay focused.